Welcome to Rock the Life, a podcast for fans by fans. I'm Katya.
I'm Amy.
Amy, today we have a story that goes way back to when we first started this podcast, of a story that actually I'd say inspired us a bit of to do this and to share fan stories. And
Hmm.
we are going to talk about one of the band members from Skid Row. And
Hmm.
this is Dave the Snake Sabo. And just a little background on him. He is from New Jersey and grew up in Sayreville, which
Yep.
is the same neighborhood as John Bon Jovi. And in
Hmm.
fact, they were friends. Snake's mom, Dorothy, raised him and his brothers as a single mother. And he was inspired by Kiss, Aerosmith, Judas Priest, Van Halen, Black Sabbath, and the Rolling Stones. He began playing guitar when he was 14 by guitar given to him by his mother. And I'm going to
Wow.
keep mentioning Dorothy's name because she is the topic of this episode.
Yeah.
It's Mama
Yeah.
Snake. Oh, before I forget,
Yeah.
did you know like this Snake was in Bon Jovi
Yes.
before Richie
I was gonna
Sambora?
say that.
Okay, so
I was
there's
gonna
another
say
rumor.
that. I was like, oh my word. When I found that out, I was kind of like, ah, you know. But the famous story with Richie coming up telling John, I'm gonna be your next guitar player, and but then we're always like, well, who was there before? And it was Snake. Pretty amazing.
Well, you know what? And good for us because then we have him in Skid Row.
Yeah,
And, we have
exactly.
two great bands.
Exactly.
And they're
Yes.
so linked in my mind and in my
Mm,
life. And like everything has
yeah.
been, you can't have
Mhm.
one without the other. My peanut butter and
Mhm.
jelly of bands here.
Right.
So this is Dayna's story. I love it. And I hope it
Yeah.
makes you smile as much as it did me the first time I heard it.
Seriously. You guys, here's Dana.
Hi, Dayna. Welcome back to Rock the Life. How are you doing?
How are you? I'm
Doing
good.
great. And yeah, you
Oh,
just missed it. Go ahead,
you
Abe.
just said welcome. You said welcome back. And what most people don't know is this is our third attempt of recording this story. So Dana has been here, although you've never met her. So we
That's
have.
funny.
It's great. We're old friends at this point. Yeah.
Funny.
Well, and and
Isn't that
Dana, like
funny?
what I love about this is too, is like way when Amy and I were first talking about the podcast and starting out, she was like, I have someone that you have to talk to and you have to meet. She goes,
Yeah.
she was like, oh, it's Dana. She goes, but I'm not going to tell you Dana's story. She goes, I don't want you to know
Mhm.
anything about it until you record so we can get the reaction. And I wish we could bottle some of that reaction, but
I
it
know.
is still, it's, like I said,
Hmm.
I've said it before, but it's one of the stories that when we heard it, it was like, this is why we want to do this podcast. Because
Yeah,
Dana, you have the
for
type
sure.
of story that we love, we get giddy over. And after I heard you tell it, it just warmed my heart. I loved it.
Hmm.
So,
Sorry, I had
it,
to take my hair down there because Amy always tells me she wants my hair down because I have rock star hair. So there
She
you go,
does.
Amy.
She's got amazing hair. Yay! There we go. I almost said something before we hit record. I'm like, where's the hair, girl? I love it. I love it. That's so great. Oh my gosh. Okay. So who are we talking about, Dana? We've already said it in the intro, so probably, I'm sure.
I guess Dave the Snake Sabo, but more his mom than him. So you know he's a part of the story too.
Right, right? A little
well,
bit.
first, Aim, I want to bring it back to it. So Dana, when
Mhm.
you were growing up, when the story took place, where were you living?
I lived in Pennsylvania at the time, near the Poconos, so about an hour and a half from where all these people, Skid Row, Bon Jovi, Trickster, where all of them started in New Jersey. I lived about an hour and a half from them, about 2 hours from New York City in the Poconos
Oh,
in Pennsylvania.
And
Yeah.
that's
in
awesome.
during our life, that was like the epicenter of the rock and roll
Mhm.
that we absolutely loved. Like New
Yeah, for
Jersey and New York were everything.
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, all the good bands are coming out of there. There was Danger Danger, there was Trickster, there was Bon Jovi, there was Skid Row, there was, I mean, so many, so many.
Amazing. Mhm.
I guess the only other side of that, we were like running away to Hollywood in LA and San Francisco. So I think between like Hollywood, San Francisco, and where you were, we controlled the universe at this time. Okay, so besides,
Yeah.
I'll say
True.
Manchester and London too, but besides that, we were like
Okay,
the
yeah.
music epicenters. Okay, so were you in high school at this time?
I was 14 years old.
Oh,
That would have made me
barely.
what? Freshman? Freshman maybe in
Mhm.
high school?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It might have even been the summer between eighth grade and freshman year. I don't
So
remember.
for
It was either the summer between eighth grade and freshman year, or the summer between freshman and sophomore year that this happened.
well, because this is also why this tickles me because this was something that we used to do at that same age. And what did you do,
Yeah.
Dana?
So I was You're making me sound like I did this horrible thing. So I
No,
was at
it's the cutest thing ever. I love it.
It is actually. It's
I was at a
amazing.
friend's house, and we had been, at that age where you're bored at a friend's house on the summer in an afternoon. We were debating if we wanted to prank call, guys we liked from school. We said, no, that's boring. We've done that before. Let's try something else. So back then it was, because we're old ladies now, right? So back then it was directory assistance, and you called 555-1212 to get a phone number. And my friend goes, I wonder if we can get any rock star's phone number. And I said, I don't know. Let's find out. So we start looking up area codes, trying to figure out area codes of, where these people lived. And we knew New Jersey because, we go on vacation there and stuff. So we go to because that was the beach to us from
Mhm.
Pennsylvania. I said, oh, I think the area code where Skid Row lives is the same as, the beach where I go on vacation. Let's try it. So we dial, the number in the area code and then the directory assistance, and we start asking for numbers. And one of the numbers we asked for was Sabo. And the operator says, oh, well, I have a Dorothy Sabo. And we're like, hmm. So we say, okay, let's try it. What's the worst that's going to happen? We call, and they're like, no, no, Dave lives here. So we're like, okay. So we call this number, and a lady answers. And we're like, hi, it's Snake there. And she says, oh, no, girls, I'm sorry. He's on tour. And
Whoa!
I think we both fell off my friend's bed. We were like, what? And it turns out it was his
Oh
mom.
my gosh.
So,
That's
um,
so awesome. Oh my word.
mom
Directory
affectionately
assistance,
knows,
man.
who told us later that fans call her Mama Snake. So that's what we, of course, started calling her, was Mama Snake. We never
Oh,
once called her Dorothy. It was Mama Snake.
wow.
So, yeah.
So how long
And
do you
how
think you
did
talked
that
that
first
first time?
conversation?
Oh,
Yep,
that's
that's
exactly what
exactly what I was going to say.
we're gonna say the same thing. That's so funny.
I don't know. We were back and forth a lot. Like, she asked us all kinds of questions, like, oh, are you guys big Skid Row fans? And how'd you get this number? And we told her how we got the number, and she kind of giggled. She was like, okay, that's interesting. She was just so nice. And I'd say maybe like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, the first conversation.
Wow.
But she was very, very sweet. And, she didn't have to take that time with two
Yeah.
crazy teenage girls calling her on the phone, for
That's
sure.
so awesome.
And when you ended that phone conversation, was she like, call me anytime?
Pretty much. I mean, it had started where she said, "Oh, well, a couple of other of Dave's fans, a couple other fans of Dave's, they write me letters, and we're like pen pals. And I don't know if you guys have pen pals, because that was a thing back then too, to have pen pals.
Hmm.
And 'cause, we didn't have email. We're old school, so we would. She said a couple other fans of his write me letters, and I write back, and we're like pen pals. So you guys can do that if you want to write me letters. And we were like, oh, okay. So she gave us the address, and I said, well, what do we address it to? She said, oh, just write Mama Snake Sabo on the envelope. They'll get here. So we said that, and then she said, yeah, you guys can call anytime. And she said, if Dave's ever home and you call, I'll put him on the phone. You can talk to him. And that we started writing her letters. I think my friend and I both immediately sat down and like wrote her a letter, and we probably, of course, we didn't drive
Oh,
yet. We probably walked to the post office to mail them. You know?
right. The blue
Yeah.
boxes. You remember putting letters in the blue
Yes.
boxes? Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
word. That's
And
Yeah.
amazing.
how long did your pen pal relationship last with Mama Snake?
For a long, long time. I wrote to her probably until I was like 23 years old, and then I don't know. I just kind
Wow.
of lost touch. I moved on to other things, and unfortunately lost touch with her. But at least 10 years. At least 10 years.
Wow.
Did you
It
save the
spanned.
letters?
I saved some. I think I might have more. They're at my parents' house in Pennsylvania. I couldn't find them all when I was there visiting. I
We
looked,
have
but
pictures.
yeah.
We have
So
Oh,
pictures. So that's so cool. What did you guys talk about?
everything, all different things. She became like one of my closest confidants. I'd call her and ask her for advice about boys, and um, we talked about music, of course. Sometimes we talked about all kinds of things. I'd ask her for if I remember the one time I was having trouble with a girl who's kind of a bully in school, and I asked her for advice about that. I mean, it was just
Wow.
anything and everything. She was like a like a big sister or a mom, I guess, to me in
Yeah.
a way. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
so fun. Like,
She was, and I mean, unfortunately, she's passed away now, but I sometimes regret that I had lost touch with her because I would have loved to reconnect with her at some point. Well, I will someday, right?
mm,
Yes. Were there were there any like funny moments that you had when in your correspondence that you had with her or phone calls or any
um,
story that
there were a few. I think the one time I had called to talk to her, I called. I didn't want to talk to Snake, but I or wasn't looking to talk to Snake, but I called and he answered,
oh,
and
nice.
he answered the phone. And of course, he knew me. I had spoken to him a few times at that point because if he was home and she was home, she'd say, "Oh." And the funny thing was, she rarely called him Snake. She would always call if it was her son. So why would she? She'd be like, "Oh, David's home. Do you want to talk to him?"
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Um. So, but he answered, and I said, "Oh, hey, Snake, it's Dayna. What's going on?" And he's like, "Not much, kiddo. What's going on?" And he said, "I'm on the other line right now, doing an interview with a radio station in Australia. Can I call you back?" So I said, "Okay." And I'd actually called because I wanted to ask his mom something, but he was on the other call waiting. He had
Right?
answered the call
Yep.
waiting, and he was on the other line with Australia. So he had to call me back. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's not going to call me back. I'll just call his mom, you know, tomorrow or something. And so I went about my day. I was in my bedroom, and of course back then I didn't have a phone in my room. It was the cordless phone on the wall. God, I feel like I'm making myself really old here. Um, but so my dad comes up and banging on my door, and he says, "Dana, there's someone named Snake on the phone for you." And
And you're
and I was
like,
like, "Oh my God, that's the guitar player from Skid Row, the one I talked to his mom." And my dad goes, "Okay." Hands me the phone, and so I'm talking to Snake on the phone, and I don't even remember what we talked about. He just asked me how I was and about my day, and I was like, "I can't believe you actually called me back." And he's like, "Well, why wouldn't I call you back?" And we talked about,
oh,
you know, and then eventually we were on the phone for a long time. Maybe it was like maybe like 25 minutes, half an hour, just talking about silly stuff with Snake. And then eventually he said, "Do you want to say hi to my mom?" And I was like, "Okay."
oh. You're like,
So
yeah, she's the reason I called.
then he put me on the phone with his mom. So,
That's so
but yeah,
awesome.
I thought my dad was gonna have a heart attack at first when he said, "Oh, there's someone named Snake on the phone for you." It's like
Right?
every dad's nightmare for his daughter, right?
Right? Oh
well,
my
yeah, I'm
gosh.
gonna go back that, but Dana, I have a funny once someone called me on the phone from New Jersey, and I was really like waiting, excited for this call. My mom said she moved out.
Oh no.
She's like, yeah, Katya doesn't live here anymore. And my mom thought that was the funniest thing ever. I was like, oh, yeah. In fact, I couldn't chase the numbers
Kind of
down.
like
It's like that's when you like for Katya's story. It's like star 69, star
Star
69.
69.
call back.
for for anybody who doesn't know, okay, so you would dial, like you would call information like Dayna said, but then star 69 eventually, not when we were really young, but eventually star 69 would call back the caller who just called you, because there was no caller ID. You didn't look at your phone and know what who was calling you, what
Say,
number,
oh, hey,
nothing.
number
Nothing.
just called.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have
Oh,
that.
I was
yeah.
like, kids these
So
days have it so easy. Yeah, no, just kidding.
seriously. And do you remember how many phone numbers we actually had memorized? We had everybody's phone number memorized. Like,
Yeah.
could spout it off. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
It
you know
was
what?
Now I
fantastic.
Nowadays, I know a lot of people's emails that I write too often.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
now I even
I think
fumble with my own phone number. Like if somebody says to me, "Oh, what's your cell phone number?" And you have to think about it for a second.
let me look at my contacts.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Right?
Dana,
Right, right.
I have to ask you
Seriously.
too, like, so being in high school and having this relationship, or even like beyond that, with Snake, did it like it give you a special confidence or a special like,
Mm,
I definitely think I thought I was cool. I don't
yeah,
know if it really
you were?
made anybody think I was cool, but my friend and I thought we were pretty cool. Then, and other people. I want to say there were some people in high school. A lot of people didn't believe us. When we would say,
yeah.
"Oh," because Skid Row was really popular at that time, and
Mm-hmm.
all of our friends in high school were listening to them. And then when I would go into high school and say, "Oh, well, I talked to Snake Sabo last night," people were like, "Yeah, right, sure, whatever." They didn't believe us. And you bring in the letters, and there were some of our friends who thought it was really cool. And we're like, "Oh yeah, this is so
Yeah.
cool. You're so lucky." Some people were like, "Oh yeah, this is fake. You're just making this up. Like it's not real." I think a lot of
Yeah.
people were like that. Um, we thought we were cool. Dave
You are
thought we were
cool.
cool.
You are cool.
Yeah.
I said
Yeah.
you are cool.
I I feel like Katya, you and I understand exactly what she's saying right now. Just with some of our high
I don't think.
school.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think a whole lot of people thought I was cool in high school. I had my circle.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get that. That's so funny.
But
I did hang out with a lot of bands, local bands, and of course the stories of Skid Row and a couple other bands from around that time. And I don't. I think, like I said, most people didn't believe me. I think most people, except my circle, who knew that I was
Yeah.
really, who would be at my
Mhm.
house when I'd get a
Mhm.
letter from Mom Snake, or
Mhm.
would go to the concerts with me and see these people interacting with me, or whatever. But I think a lot of the people who weren't in my friend circle were like, "Oh yeah, this girl's nuts. Like something's wrong with her. She thinks she knows
Really?
Skid Row." You know?
She's making up all these lies. Yeah,
okay, so
yeah.
that that brings me to concerts.
Mhm.
When did you first see Skid Row play?
First
Mm.
time I saw Skid Row, first time I saw Skid Row was 1989. I was 13, and I saw them play with Bon Jovi in
Yep.
Pennsylvania. It was actually the racetrack in Pennsylvania, horse racing track. And I'll never forget it because my dad took me, and I was all embarrassed because, of course, you don't want to curse in front of your parents or anything at that age. And I remember my dad, John Bon Jovi, walks out and he goes, "Oh, it smells like horse shit out here." And I was like, "Well, you're at a horse racing track, dude." But I was like, "Oh my god, my dad's gonna make us leave because John Bon Jovi said a swear word." But
He said the S word.
great, and I'm like, "Oh, my dad's not noticing." But that was the first time I saw Skid Row, opening for Bon
Oh my
Jovi on the New
gosh.
Jersey tour.
Yeah.
Which was like I think that was the first time I
Same.
saw them too. Yeah, it was
Same.
very impactful to me.
Mhm. Mhm. And
Yeah,
that hair.
that was the first
Mhm.
time I had ever really heard them. I didn't even,
Yeah,
know
same.
of them. I was a huge Bon
Yeah.
Jovi fan, and I didn't really know of them, and I just wanted to go see Bon Jovi. And then when they were opening, I was like, "I love these guys,"
Yeah.
Then I was definitely a new fan after that for sure. That was obviously before we met Mama Snake. So.
Yeah. We I think MTV was my first exposure to Skid Row. And I think Youth Gone Wild was out, and by the
Yep,
time we got to see them, Katya, I think Youth Gone Wild
that's
and
true.
18 and Life was out. And
Yep.
man, so and I had Metal Edge all over my wall at that time. So I remember being excited to see Skid Row, and just the way that Sebastian Bach came out on stage, man, with that hair was
What's in his hair right
that
now?
for some reason is marked into my like permanent memory. It's got to be a core memory from that show, because I
Um,
just there's
okay, Amy, I know it is. It's you talk about, and I'm just making this connection. When Sebastian Bach walked out, and you said you saw his
Mhm,
long blonde hair from the back, and
mhm, mhm.
that was it.
He came out
Um,
backwards,
He came out backwards, like
when
walking
we
backwards.
kind of, yeah.
when we first met your husband, he had long blonde straight hair like Sebastian Bach.
See, that was
And I
etched in
saw
our
him
head.
from behind. The first time, okay, here's the funny story. It's halfway naughty, but not really. Okay, so Clay. Okay, so Clay was he was in a band, and his band had just performed. We didn't see them that night. We were at One Step Beyond in Santa Clara. We didn't see them that night, but literally they were at the. Should I not say that?
No,
Should
I
I?
didn't realize that. I thought we saw them. Okay,
Oh yeah.
maybe we didn't.
No,
Okay.
we were late. And anyway, he was at the backstage door, at the door where the bands go or whatever, and I just saw him from behind, and he flipped his hair back. And I'm sorry to say, and maybe I'll take this part out, but he just had this tight ass and he flipped his hair back. And I looked at my friends and I went, oh, he hadn't even turned around yet. Okay. But he flipped it, and I said, I want that one. It's so naughty. I was like, I want that one.
And
And
it
It's not
here
works.
that
we
So
are 30 some odd years later.
you know. I kind of, if you're gonna take stuff out, I kind of have a similar story, but I didn't end up marrying him. But
something
but
about that beautiful hair. Oh,
30 years later, we also still are close, but not in the same way you are.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's literally, how it started. It's
so
like,
so
Kind of,
Dana, how
yeah,
many times have you seen Skid Row? Can you guess how many times you've seen them? Or have you seen them with like the Sebastian Bach years, the Lizzie Hale or Eric Gronwall or all the other
mm,
iterations of singers?
I've seen them. Oh my God, I think I saw them like 5 or 6 times with
mhm,
Sebastian, and then I saw them maybe 2 or 3 times with Johnny Follinger,
mm,
Hmm.
and I saw them with Eric Grunwald.
mm.
Oh,
I got to
Yeah,
see them with Eric too.
yeah.
I
Eric,
enjoyed that a
Eric,
lot.
Eric, Eric is amazing. Eric is amazing for
Mm,
sure.
mm-hmm.
mind blowing.
Such a nice.
Amazing. Um, did you ever meet Mama Snake?
Yes, twice. Once very briefly at a show she was running backstage, and couldn't. It was a show in New Jersey, so they couldn't get us backstage because there was too many friends and family already
Right,
backstage and
right.
stuff. So, but we saw her walking past, and we yelled, and she came over. She goes, "Oh my gosh!" and gave us a hug and was very sweet. That was the first time we had ever met her. And of course, it's weird because I feel like I was thinking about this. I feel like I wish I had taken more pictures back then.
Mm.
But back then it was like the disposable camera, or you weren't allowed to take your camera in. And I remember my friends and I used to try to put cameras in. We used to put the cameras into tampon boxes and try to sneak them into concerts.
Yep.
But
Put them down
it
my
didn't always,
pants. Hmm.
yeah. But for some reason, I don't have any pictures with her at all, and I kind of regret that. I wish I had taken
Yeah.
more
I
pictures.
Katya is our saving grace. Every picture that we have in our opening, Every picture that we've ever put out has been because she had like an addiction to her camera. It was
Shoved in
everywhere
every body
we
part.
went. Yeah, and I never would have thought about it. And it's her camera is the reason we're even friends, because she sent me pictures at Warren. I get you, because I'm that same way. But man, Katya's got it.
No,
I
so different, but no, so different now. I mean, we were good, but
yeah,
back
it
then
is.
it wasn't an easy
Mm-mm,
thing to do. And you
mm-mm,
ran the risk
mm-mm.
of losing your camera if you brought it to a show.
Yeah.
Or it would be a general admission show, and you'd be waiting in line all day. You'd want to get front row, and they'd say you have to take it back to your car,
And then
Exactly.
you'd
and then
lose
you
your
take it
No,
back
spot.
to
it
your
was a
car,
risk.
and all of a sudden, you were 50 rows back in front of people you couldn't see around. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
No,
but
exactly. It was a
but
challenge.
back to the story. Yes, then it's the second time I saw her. We saw her at a show in New Jersey, and I had talked to her beforehand, and she said, "Oh, at this one, I think I can get you backstage to meet the band. Come find me." And we told her we were going to be front row. We were going to try to get front row, and she saw us near the front row, and she came over. She came like down through the pit and looking for us. And we
Aww.
saw her, and we flagged her down, and she gave us hugs, of course, that time. And then she took us backstage, and we got to meet the whole band at that show.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. That's so fun.
Yep.
That's
So do
incredible.
you still see or hear from Snake?
Not often. I mean, I follow him on social media, and
Yeah.
he'll reply to me things on social media occasionally, but I don't follow him like or talk to him like I used to back in the day. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
if he sees this podcast, maybe we'll talk more again.
Right? Right? We'll tag. We'll tag.
I'll tag him.
Right? That's awesome.
So,
That's
and
awesome.
also, Dana, I have to ask you, who are you listening to now?
Mm.
Oh my gosh, I listen to a lot of things. Obviously, I'm wearing a Backstreet Boys shirt.
I
I
know, I
listen to
love
quite
that. I was gonna.
a weird variety of music. I'm not just a
Hmm.
metalhead. I listen
Hmm.
to lately. I've really been listening to a band. They're really good guys. The band called Kaminar. They're
Hmm.
local out of Tampa, and
All
they're
right.
really good guys, and they're fantastic musicians. And I just saw them a couple
That's
weeks
okay.
ago. I just saw them play down here in Tampa, and they're actually open. I'll see them again in September because they're opening for Trickster in September here in Florida.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah, Kaminar.
Nice.
I've been listening to them a lot lately. Of course, all my old go tos, Skid Row, Trickster,
Mhm.
Bon Jovi. Mr. Big. I'm a huge Mr. Big fan.
Oh, yeah.
I love Mr. Big. And
Hmm.
um, Backstreet Boys. Depends on the day. I mean, one day I might be listening to Broadway show tunes. The next day I'm listening to Mr. Big. You never know with me.
Right? Right? Oh my gosh, we have Hamilton on repeat. We have my girls belt things out like nothing else. And oh my gosh, what's the newest one? I think what I've been listening to, I'd have to look it up. I'd have to look it up. But Clarissa has just been introduced to Greece.
Oh my
So
oh
gosh.
my
we have
goodness.
to figure, I know, we have to figure out how to stream it, because she's like, last time I looked, mom, you had to pay for it. I'm like, oh, we might have to pay for Greece. Greece is
You
one
buy it and
Yeah.
then you
we
keep
can't
it.
miss.
Yeah, that's one
Yep.
to.
Oh
Yep.
yeah. But who has DVD? You'll buy it on the computer. I just say a big DVD somewhere, but who has DVD players anymore?
I know we don't have one
I
anymore.
literally bought a DVD player this year to watch some. What were we trying to watch? It wasn't like Game of Thrones, like the initial seasons or something
Mm-hmm.
that we couldn't get.
Stream.
And
Mm.
I bought the DVDs and a DVD. The DVD player was like $30.
I still have one hooked up to the TV in our bedroom. I never turn it on. It just sits there.
We ended up getting to the
I
point
own
where the
everything.
PlayStation was what we were
Oh,
using
that's
to
true too.
watch.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My son took that to college, so I was like out of luck.
Yeah, right? You're like, great. Thanks. No.
Well, no, because I'm just, because Dana, I'm just really like, I went through a few decades, actually, maybe not a few decades, but like a decade where I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
as excited for music. But now I'm excited for music again, and I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
forward to going to shows. So I think that is like Yeah, finding music again, but still actually loving some of the bands that I've always loved. But I love finding new
Mm,
music too and
I've
going out.
always been, I never went through a phase where I wasn't into music, but I've gone through quite a few phases of music. Like I went through a
mm,
country
That's
phase. I was really into,
me too.
I was going to Kenny Chesney and all these other bands, and then I went through a Broadway show phase where I lived 2 hours from New York City, so my mom and I would go to a lot of Broadway shows. And then I'm trying to think. And of course, my metal phase never went away. But and then
No.
Backstreet Boys. In college, all my friends were into Backstreet Boys and In Sync, and I was like, oh, hey, these guys are pretty good, you know.
mhm,
Kind of got into the
mhm.
Backstreet Boys, and I've seen them quite a few times now. And so I'm just I've never went through a phase where I didn't listen to music or wasn't into music, but it was definitely a very
Changed.
vast range
Yeah,
of types of music I listened to.
yeah,
No, I guess I say more was I was always into music, but I was in a place where I couldn't see live music, and that is what I
yeah, yeah.
really missed
You
in
didn't
life.
pursue
I
it.
was, yeah, I was into
Yeah.
music, but I couldn't see it because I was literally on a like
Mhm, mhm.
island in the middle of nowhere.
I was gonna
But
say island.
but yeah,
I
that
almost
is
I almost put the
All
deserted in there, but it wasn't a deserted island. But in terms of
sort of,
bands
yeah.
coming to visit, it yeah, deserted island.
And now,
Oh,
now bands do like cruises and stuff. So may
yeah.
never know. Island. I was telling Katya I went on a Backstreet Boys cruise for quite a while, 15 years
Oh
ago
my
now. I was on
gosh,
that.
how fun
2010, I
was
think it was.
that?
It was fun.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was
tell us,
crazy.
tell us about the Backstreet Boys cruise. Like, how many times do they play? Is it like 5 or 6 days long?
Yeah, how does
It
that
was
work?
4 days. I think it was 4 days. They played twice. They played once on the private island. We went to cruise line private island, and they did a concert on the private island, and then they did a concert in the theater of the ship as well.
Hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then they had meet and greets, and it was they were just kind of walking around on the ship. It was very casual,
Wow.
very laid back. You kind of got to know them and not know them, but you know what I mean. You got to
Yeah,
run
yeah,
into
yeah.
Right.
them. I
There's
Yeah.
mean,
not
and
many
they
places to hide on a ship. I guess
no,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
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 But but anyway, it was reminding me as we all this talking makes me think of a letter with Mama Snake, a conversation with Mama Snake. I think it went from a letter and then it became a phone conversation too. I don't know if you guys remember, talking about Sebastian. If you guys remember when Sebastian threw the
Oh.
bottle into the
Mhm.
audience
Yes.
and
Mhm.
Yes.
the
Big.
fan. I remember calling. I think I called her first, and then we went back and forth with it in a letter for a while. I remember calling Mama Snake like so upset. What's gonna happen to Sebastian? Is he gonna go to jail? Is he gonna get in trouble? And she was so sweet, and she's like, "Oh, honey, he has good lawyers. Sebastian's gonna be okay. There you go. There's Odie."
Oh.
Oh, hi, God.
So
That's
she's
so
like,
funny.
she kept reassuring me. She's like, "Sebastian's gonna be okay. He's got good
Mhm.
lawyers, honey. Don't worry about him. He'll be okay." And then I'm like, "But they hurt him too. He got hurt too." And she's like, "He has a couple
Yeah.
stitches. Okay, he's fine." And I remember
How
this
sweet
being
is that?
a phone conversation, and I think we went back and forth about it in letters for a while too, because I was so concerned about Sebastian. Was he going to be okay? And was he going to go to jail? And you know, my 14-year-old mind was just, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, the band,
This is the
what's going to happen?"
okay. Whatever happened?
Oh.
What was ever the resolution of that? Did they settle or did they drop it? I never remember what happened.
I don't
I
either.
don't even remember. Hi, you're
I
gonna be
think he paid
famous.
a fine. I think he had to pay a. I don't remember. I really don't.
Community
I shouldn't.
service. I don't remember
Beauty. That's awesome. Well, Dana, you have some other stories to tell, so we're gonna see you again.
for sure.
Yeah.
Get your come over here.
Oh, that's so funny.
I told you he was
Oh
gonna
my
do
word.
that.
Yeah.
That's
Feels like I
awesome.
was waiting patiently. Now here I
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
Here's
That's
my
so
butt.
fun.
I'm a cat. See, we're all cats.
I love you. Here's my butt.
Coming back. You want to say hi to the girls again?
There
Oh,
we
what a
go.
cutie. What a
Uh,
sweetie. Oh my gosh.
Fern and Fern. So
Aw.
yeah, so I definitely want to come back and tell some other stories and Backstreet
Yeah.
Boys and some other
Yeah.
bands and
Mm-hmm.
don't fall.
Alrighty. So we will make sure that we see you again. But I absolutely adore your Skid Row story. Like having that connection to Mama Snake is, you know, amazing. Like it that's not something that a lot of people are can that's that's something that a lot of people can relate to and go oh, but not very many people experienced. So I feel like that's definitely a gift that you've had, and that experience and that connection, and
It
it
is.
sounds like she really got you through like high school and
Well,
She
like,
like
and
did. I
what
mean, like,
what an incredible lady too, right? To
mhm
like,
mhm
she was an incredible lady, and I mean, to give us, like I said, she didn't have to give two of Dave's fans any time of day whatsoever. But
mhm
we'd call her and ask her, like I said, advice about boys or whatever, and she was just. We used to talk on. I used to talk on the phone with her for hours, and then of course I get in trouble for that, but I
the
used to
phone
talk on
bill.
the
yeah,
phone
Yeah.
with her
just
for hours. And we'd talk about the bands, we'd talk about just random
um,
things. She'd give me advice. It was definitely a very unique relationship. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's other. She said she had other pen pals. I'm sure there's other people out there that had the similar experience that I had with her. But I
yeah.
mean, no one that I have ever spoken to has
Mhm.
had that friendship with Mama Snake. So
What a sweet
No,
lady.
I know. Let's hear it for the moms too, right? That is.
Right?
Yeah, we
Right?
were just, I was having this conversation with my kids about something. We're talking different musicians and things that have happened to them. And we said, some really successful musicians, you see that they really credit their parents, or their parents are right there in the
Mhm.
wings a lot. And you see the support of like a mother or a dad right there to believe in them. And I mean, not only did she, raise a great son, but look what she did for his
yeah,
fans,
Mhm.
right? And I think it's great.
I, I mean, I was close to my own mom, but I'd say it was almost like she was a big sister in a way because I mean, and I had a sister too, but just things I would tell her things that I would never have told my mom.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though she was a mom, I would
Mhm.
call her and tell her things that I would never tell my own mom. Oh, I really like this boy, and I or whatever, or my friends and I are gonna sneak out to go to this concert tonight, and she would always steer us in the right direction. She would say that's not a good idea, but it wasn't like telling a mom, like my
Yeah,
mom would have
yeah.
been like,
She
absolutely
was
not,
safe. She was safe.
As a
Yeah,
confident, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Coming back. You have any stories about bands?
I know. His
Faster
stories about
Pussycat.
Dayna. Tell us stories about Dayna.
Right, right?
Yeah, she stirs and
Oh my
doesn't
goodness,
give me
how
she
amazing.
doesn't give me enough snacks.
Yeah.
Right?
She
She
stays
doesn't
out
she
too late some nights. Yeah, no.
yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Um
I love it.
yeah, so it was definitely a cool thing to know her. Definitely a unique thing. And to get to know Dave too. I mean, I feel like how many people can say that they talk to one of their favorite guitar players on the phone pretty regularly? He
Yeah.
never, and
Yeah.
oftentimes it turned out that I wasn't looking to call him. I would call his
Yeah.
mom, and he just happened to be home, and she'd say, "Oh, here, talk to Dave."
I love it.
So,
Love it.
That's so
No,
cool.
it's wonderful.
and
The
Rachel, I
close
mean, I kind of Rachel too.
the closest we got to that, I think at one point we had warrants, like I think they had a hotline or whatever, and I specifically remember the answering machine. And and I totally remember it was a 310 area code number, and they would come in with a what, like on the Dirty Rotten Filthy Stinking Rich, which is how
Oh yeah,
we knew that it was right. But they would be like, it was Janie's voice, I'm pretty sure, and they would be like, thanks for calling, and then they would say something like, we're going in and out, up and down, we're on tour or whatever, in and out, up and down, hot and sweaty all around. And I remember that to this day. But
I
that's the
know.
so it's like
closest we got to
she did. our same tactic with Mama Snake. We were like, oh, we can probably get other phone numbers too. So the other person that I had spoken to like that, we actually did the same thing. Got a phone number. Now I had become close to this person prior to this. Excuse you, to John Sturr from Lillian Axe. He was a
Oh.
guitar player from Lillian Axe,
Mm-hmm.
and I had met him quite a few times, and he and I had become friends, like friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gotten his phone number the same way and directory assistance, and started calling him. But that was after I had met him already. It wasn't, I'm just gonna call this random rock star. But I used to talk
Right,
to him on
right.
the phone. I used to talk to him on the phone too quite a bit when I was younger. He's gone
Nice.
now.
Yeah. Okay, so just like we said, Steve Brown was the reason we have barricades now. High barricades at concerts. Dayna is the reason why rock stars stop listing their numbers.
No, it was a super positive. They were lucky.
No,
They
I
were
totally
they
know.
were
I'm
lucky
joking, but
she
I thought it
found
was
them.
funny. Yeah, yeah.
Also, remember, I might also be the reason that they block numbers now too.
Right?
Yeah, Amy and
Oh,
I
my
might have
word.
contributed to that too. Yeah, we might have been us too.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh,
Oh,
man.
Dana, thank
So
you.
funny.
Thank you.
Yep.
I love speaking. I love speaking with you. So
Yes.
yeah, we're gonna get some more stories. Go to those concerts. I want some
Mm-hmm.
more stories.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple lined up, so we'll see.
Yep. Yep.
I'm
They'll
ready.
get you. Alrighty. Well, thank you for coming on the show this time, and third time's a charm. And we
Yes,
will see you again for your next story. So
Yeah,
okay.
enjoy the weekend,
I
my
guess
friend.
it's a mystery. What band will it be?
I know.
I know.
I
That's
know. We're gonna have to pull a name out of a hat and then call Dayna and say, "Do you have a story about?" We need a story for, and then see what she's got. Yep, yep, perfect. All
All
right.
right,
Well,
guys.
we will chat soon. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye. Bye,
Bye.
Bethia.
Aim. I love the story. I could talk to Dana forever. I can't
Yeah,
wait till I can go to a show with Dana and we
I
could rock
know.
out together because so many of the things that she talked about were like
Mm-hmm.
spot on our lives.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want, I want like the younger kids to hear this. I mean, I just have to laugh how we talk about things like, the telephone in your room and
yeah.
directory assistance.
Directory
These were
assistance.
these were real things where you
Yeah.
would call
Mm-hmm.
and get an operator, a real live
Mm-hmm.
person operator. Like
Person.
nowadays, it's
Yeah.
all chat bots, right? It was just a
Yeah.
different fun time with different experiences and yeah,
Yeah.
how quickly
And it
technology has
wasn't
changed.
it wasn't one centralized thing. You couldn't just call one number. You actually had to call the area code of the place that had like New Jersey. You had to call the specific area code for that segment of New Jersey in order to get the number you were looking for. So, I mean, that's the kind of the neat thing about it. I remember visualizing, like, seeing there's an operator there looking up the phone book, scrolling through the pages or something. Cause, it was just, computers at the time were rare. Maybe they had them, I don't know. But, it's,
Well, but what's also cute, Amy, is that so Dana's telling the story of what she did when she was 14, 15, finding these rock stars and trying to call them up. On the East Coast, we were doing the exact
same
same thing
thing.
in the West Coast. Like her
I
story, as
know.
she's telling it, we're just like, oh
I
yeah,
know.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was just
Yeah. We did
so
that.
fun. Yeah,
We did that. I specifically, and I mentioned it in the interview, I specifically remember doing that with Warrant, just trying to find, you know, calling information and asking for Janie Lane. And sure enough, there was a number. We're like, oh,
now
wow.
what?
Okay.
Now what?
Yeah,
Now what do I
pretty
do? Now that
much.
now that he's on the phone. No, so I just love it. We were just like kindred spirits from across
Yeah.
the coast to coast.
Yeah. Amazing. She's awesome. Okay, you guys, like and subscribe. business time. And, if you have a story to tell, make sure that you let us know. You can follow us on our Instagram page at Rock the Life Girl. You can also send me a message there. I check their requests, so don't hesitate to get a hold of us there. You can also send an email to amy.rockthelife@outlook.com. Don't forget to check out our merch store at rtlmerch.com and stream the intro. It actually is a whole song, if you didn't already know. It's available on all the streaming services, really. I was just about to name them, but just search Rock the Life by Wild Society and it will come up for you. Hope you enjoy it. Is that it, babe?
That's it. I can't wait to hear
Yeah,
more stories. This was fun.
I know. It was fun. Alrighty. I love you. Hey,
Love you too.
don't forget. Don't forget. Rock the life.
Rock the life.
Bye.
Bye.